Happy Wednesday and welcome back. So, as a reminder, this is a series that we're doing, and we're going to talk about staying. We kind of introduced that idea last week. I'm really talking about staying with grief instead of just trying to rush past it, right? So, this week, I want to talk about what happens when we actually stop interrupting the emotions that are already there. Most of us have learned in one way or another to interrupt our emotions. What I mean about this is like if we start to feel sad, we try to push it away. We try to do something that will make us feel happy. If anger rises up, we tell ourselves, oh my gosh, we shouldn't be angry. And we just kind of push that down, right? If we start to feel lonely and we don't like that, we distract ourselves with something. And sometimes though, we actually interrupt emotions that are beautiful as well. After my daughter Lorianne died, there were these moments when I would suddenly feel a spark of joy. Maybe something one of my other kids said, or a moment of laughter, connection with a friend, sometimes for no apparent reason at all. And almost immediately, another feeling would rush in behind it. I would feel guilty. Oh my gosh, how can I feel joy when my daughter died? And it took me several months to realize that those moments of joy weren't something to feel guilty about. In fact, I came to believe that they were sacred, that they were the Holy Spirit reminding me that love and life were still present. Sometimes I even wondered if it was Lorianne wanting me to feel what she was feeling. But most of the time, the emotions that we interrupt are the ones that we label as negative: anger, sadness, loneliness. We tend to treat those emotions as problems that need to be corrected. But you guys, emotions aren't actually good or bad. They're just signals. And something really interesting happens when we stop trying to control them. And instead, we start getting curious about them. Because often the emotion that we feel first isn't the deepest one. Like anger might be sitting on top of hurt. Loneliness might be sitting on top of longing. Sadness might be sitting on top of love that has nowhere to go. And all of that is sitting on top of grief. And in my own experience, it took a long time for me to learn how to recognize that. For quite a while, anger was the dominant emotion that kept showing up for me. And honestly, I didn't want it there. I tried to reason with it. I tried to pray about it, make it go away, correct it, anything just to make it leave. But the more I pushed against it, the stronger it seemed to hold on. And what I actually discovered very slowly was that the anger wasn't actually the deepest emotion. It was protecting something softer underneath. It was protecting grief. And once I was able to recognize that, the work became different. Not easier exactly, but more tender for sure. Because grief doesn't shout the way anger does, right? It speaks more quietly. One of the things I shared recently is that pain lessens when it is named in the presence of a compassionate witness. Sometimes that witness is another person, and sometimes it's ourselves. Viktor Frankl wrote something very similar in Man's Search for Meaning. He said, emotion, which is suffering, ceases to be suffering as soon as we form a clear and precise picture of it. So, in other words, the moment we begin to see clearly what we're actually feeling, the emotion begins to move. Recently, I was sitting by a lake watching the water after the wind had stirred it. Ripples were just moving across the surface, like relentlessly. It was like they were coming to me and they wouldn't stop. But as I was mesmerized by it, I realized that the ripples didn't stay there forever. Almost magically, silently, they began to disappear. And slowly, almost quietly, it was almost imperceptible, honestly. It began to settle. And watching that felt really symbolic to me. because emotions can move in a similar way. In my own life, it has felt like ripples on that lake. Anger, slowly revealing grief. Grief uncovering deeper questions of worth. And over time, when those questions are held with compassion, a kind of peace began to emerge. Not forced peace, but the kind that comes when the water finally becomes still. And again, that process has been very slow for me. And I want to say something clearly, real quick, that this is simply my experience. This is not a formula for how grief should unfold for anyone else. But it has taught me something important. It's taught me that healing doesn't come from controlling our emotions, but it often begins with curiosity, with noticing what we're feeling, naming it, and allowing it to be witnessed with compassion. Because emotions move when they're witnessed. And sometimes the most healing thing that we can do is stop interrupting our emotions and instead become curious about what they might be revealing. I hope that something in this resonated with you. This has been a learning process, and I'm just asking you to accompany me on this journey. I'm learning so much, and I'm grateful to have a place to share it and would love to hear your own experiences. You can reach out to me in direct message, comment, whatever works for you. Either way, really grateful you're here. I hope you have a great week. I'll see you next week.